Um, but I learned a valuable lesson over the next 8 years that a decision really isn't enough. I tried, I failed. I did something different, I failed. I tried something and broke myself. And I just couldn't get it to go. If I lost any weight, I gained it back and more. And so I found myself 45 years later. I found myself 8 years later in worse shape and really just disgusted.
Salutations and welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to help you live your most audacious life ever. So pleased that you with us on the program as we delve into the topic of optimizing fitness and health, especially for those over 40. Today's episode features an insightful interview with health and fitness expert Allan Misner, who will share his journey and valuable insights on living a healthier and fitter life. You know, just like tending to a garden, optimizing our health and fitness over 40 requires careful attention, nurturing, and commitment. Just as each plant needs specific care to thrive, our bodies also require personalized strategies and approaches to reach our optimal health goals. Allan is a seasoned health and fitness coach with a passion for helping others achieving their wellness goals. With years of experience and dedicated knowledge in the field, Allan has transformed countless lives through his tailored fitness program as well as his motivational coaching. His expertise in health and fitness makes him the perfect fit for today's episode as he shares his own personal journey from corporate success to prioritizing his health and living a fulfilling life. His profound insights and practical tips will surely inspire and motivate you as we focus on taking charge of your own wellness journey. So now that we got the table set and we're ready to go, let's jump into our conversation with Allan. Enjoy. Hey, Allan, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. Appreciate you taking the time like this, my friend.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you, Audley.
Well, it's great. I was just saying before we even hit record here, it's just great to be able to engage in conversations and being able to also help individuals identify ways that they can better themselves and live, that best audacious life that we talk about here often. You certainly can relate to this in terms of your own personal mission and in helping people get healthier and fitter and really by adjusting their mindset more than anything else. So I wonder if, as a starting point, if you sort of could explain the work that you do and how you got here.
Okay. I'm actually going to tell this story backwards, if that's
Okay.
okay with you.
Sure. So I started on this
Yeah.
podcast with Audley
Yeah,
Stevenson.
I'm on this podcast today. And the reason I'm on this podcast today is because I did take the time to do something, to reach out. And so that's going to play into a lot of what I talk about today is, well, today I live on a Caribbean island that doesn't get hurricanes.
Yeah.
I spend my days helping people achieve their goals, living better lives. And it can't get any better than that now, can it?
It's pretty awesome.
But if you flash back 19 years ago, I was not this man. I was not living this life, and I was not doing these things. I was extremely successful at what I was doing at the time, which was in corporate. I had made C-suite at the age of 39. I was jet setting around the world. I was making the money, but I was completely miserable. I was unhealthy, unfit, and quite frankly, I didn't even like myself. So all I really had to show was a really good career and a lot of toxic relationships and a lot of misery. And so I forced myself to take a vacation.
Okay.
And I took this vacation and I sat there on the beach and I tried to play beach volleyball, which was something I had done a lot when I was younger. And I was barely able to make it through one game. And I came very close to asking them to take me to the hospital. And I just, at that moment, just couldn't fathom how far I had fallen from the athlete that I was when I was younger. I was looking in that rear view mirror and saying, that's me, that's me. And no, not anymore. And so I made a decision that I was going to change. But I learned a valuable lesson over the next 8 years that a decision really isn't enough. I tried, I failed. I did something different, I failed. I tried something and broke myself. and I just couldn't get it to go. If I lost any weight, I gained it back and more. And so I found myself 45 years later. I mean, I found myself 8 years later in worse shape and really just disgusted. And my daughter and I had had a conversation, and it was something she said that really was kind of that kick in the gut. Now, she was 21 years old or 20 years old at the time, and she was getting into CrossFit. She got her level one coaches thing, and she was doing all this fun stuff with her friends. And we got on the phone. She says, "Hey, Daddy, would you come watch me do a CrossFit competition?" And I was like, wait, I never intended to be a spectator in my daughter's life. I am a participant in my daughter's life. And it just occurred to me at that moment that that was the price of admission. If I didn't do something, that's what I was losing. I was losing my daughter. I was losing, it's fine you lose yourself, but when you start realizing the other things that you're losing by not being capable, by not being healthy, by not being fit. And so I did watch her do that CrossFit competition, but that was the trigger for me to dive a little deeper to try to understand why I wasn't who I was supposed to be and why this was so freaking hard. Because I had done a lot of really hard things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this was breaking me and I couldn't figure it out. And so I sat there one morning, and I said, when I passed the CPA exam, I was committed to passing the CPA exam.
Right.
And I went at full bore with no there was no fail. There was no fail. There was just I'm passing this test. When I was in the army and I was running around with a ranger unit, I wasn't a ranger, but they put me in a ranger unit and I wanted to keep up with the best of them. How do you do that? Well, it's hard. So
Right.
you commit to fitness and you commit to the challenge and you do the things. And so that's what I realized. I realized that I had not yet really committed to overcome this challenge. So what I did was I made that commitment and I realized that the commitment is a combination of two things.
Yeah.
Okay. The first one is that you have to have an emotional why.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you just go and say, okay, well, I need to lose 25 pounds. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna eat better and da 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 da. You're probably not gonna get too far because there's no real emotional anything behind losing that 25 pounds. But if you're losing that 25 pounds so you can be there for your grandchildren when they graduate high school,
Right.
that's a different math. Okay, so the why has to be so deep that you feel it. And if you ever felt like not doing the work,
Yep.
you got that why right there in front of you.
Right.
You're letting them down. You're letting that why down. And so that
Right.
emotional why, the second part is a vision.
Right.
And it's just sort of like knowing where you want to go. So if you just walk in the gym and say, I kind of want to be more fit, I kind of want to have a little bit more muscle. Again, not a very clear vision. And it'll be very hard for you to do the right things
Mm-hmm.
to be there. What does this look like? And so the concept that I talk about that relates to that is what I call fit for task. So many people tell me, man, I hate working out. I don't want to run. I don't like running.
Right.
Nobody's chasing me. Why would I run?
Right.
you know and they don't want to lift weights because the guys in there throwing iron around, they're intimidating, and it's not my place.
Right. Right. Right.
I don't want to do it. Okay, well, no one wants to work out, no one wants to exercise, but you know what we want to do? We want to be able to wipe our own butt when we're 105. We want to be able to open our own pickle jars.
Got it.
We want to be able to put our own bag in the overhead bin, and we want to be there for our grandchildren and our children and our
Yep.
spouses. So to be the men or the women that we're supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
we have to train to be those people. Because see, there's an aging curve with this technical term called sarcopenia and another one called osteopenia that's slowly making us old and frail.
Right.
If we don't do anything about it, that's the aging curve. That's the sickness and illness curve. That's where we're going if we don't do something about it.
And it happens quick too, by the way.
It quicker and steeper as we go. And so you have to do the things. But to do the things, again, you go back to your why. Why do I want this? because I want that relationship with my grandchildren. I want that
Mm,
relationship with my daughter. I want this, I want that. And yes, I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105. And there's stories behind all of this. So you can ask me if you want to know why is that, why you say that particular, I'll tell you why. But um, I want to be able to keep up with my grandchildren. I want to
sure.
keep up with my daughter. I want to keep up with the things in my life. I want to enjoy my life to the fullest. And if I don't do the things, that doesn't happen. So fit for task says I'm not lifting weights just to lift weights. I'm lifting weights to be strong enough to pick up my
Right.
grandchildren.
Right. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I'm not just working on mobility and balance. I'm working on my ability to sit on the floor with a grandchild instead of sitting in the rocking chair.
Yep.
Okay.
What you're really, it's putting that purpose behind it, right? Like
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing, and I love when you make it emotional, right? So that really, I think, ups the ante a little bit, so to speak. Like and you feel it more because when you're emotionally connected to things, right? We just
Yeah.
want them better. We want them, we want them that much more, and so I think it's a real good approach.
So I made that commitment, and then I was looking at myself and saying, okay, what do I really need to drive me through this? And I went through some different mindsets. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I knew I knew what I needed to do to make the next step. And so I started paying attention to myself and why things weren't the way they were supposed to be. And what I felt like at one time was I just need something big and freaking scary in front of me, like a CPA exam, but physically, something I'm have to be healthy and fit to be able to do. And so I told my daughter, called my daughter, I said, hey, how about we do a tough mutter?
Mm.
Now, for those that don't know, a tough mudder is a 12 to 13-mile run, and it's not on the street. So it's back where they drive the ATVs and the trucks and do the mudding. If you live in an area where they like to go mudding, this is where they'll do it. Okay, so it's hills and it's ditches and it's muddy and it's nasty. And I said, let's do that. And oh yeah, they threw in 25 obstacles just to make it fun. And so I had no business signing up for this thing because at the time there was no way I could do it. But I knew if I pushed myself, I could be there. And I wanted that experience with my daughter. So I started training. We signed up for it. I had about 8 months. Now, because I traveled so much for work, big excuse, right? I can't hire a coach. I can't do anything because I'm traveling for work. I went out and got certified as a certified personal trainer to
Right.
train myself. I got the corrective exercise specialty because I needed that work myself. I got the fitness nutrition specialty because I needed that myself.
Right.
And I got the functional aging certification because I needed
Okay.
that for myself.
Amazing.
So I
Yep.
didn't hire a coach, I became my coach.
Coach. Yes.
So no
Yes.
excuse,
Yep.
get it done. That's the commitment. That's commitment when you're willing to spend the money, spend the time, spend the effort, in addition to a job, in addition to doing the fitness work to get where you've got to go. So when you have a good commitment, you don't
Yeah.
make excuses.
Right, right, right.
Okay.
Alan, when you step into the role as being your own coach, right? You now are accountable to yourself, and
Yeah.
because coaches in general, they serve as that accountability partner, if you will, right? And
Yeah.
they're the ones that go, hey, you said you wanted this. You said this is what you want to do. You said this is like the things that you're doing aren't pointing the direction that you want. And it kind of reminds you, but to do that yourself, that's not easy.
No, no. And that's why when I talk about motivation, and this is one of the interesting things, most of us get motivation wrong.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the deal. Let's, you decide you want to get in shape, and you're like, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to start on Monday. Today's
Sure.
Friday. Okay. Well, what's special about Monday? Well, that's motivation day, right? No, not always. Monday comes along, you'll hit snooze just as easy as you would on Saturday. Okay. So Monday comes and maybe you're all gunned up and you go to the gym and you do the thing and you're okay. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, motivation just leaves. Gone. And so, I woke up on a random Tuesday and there's no motivation in the room. I just don't have the willpower. I'm just not determined. I can't do these things. And so what we're doing is we're waiting for this magical force, this fairy dust to sprinkle
Right.
down on us. That doesn't happen. The way you get motivated is to do something first.
Yep.
Okay. And so the doing can be very easy or the doing can be hard. And so I encourage you to do both. And so I want you to think of it in a grid. So there's a grid with four squares.
Okay.
Okay. On one column, one side is the accountability you spoke about. Okay.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
important.
Mhm.
Accountability will work. And then the other side is the harder one called self efficacy.
Mm.
Okay. So there's a leader level on the accountability, and this is like a coach or a boss.
Yes. Yes.
So the boss says, I expect you in the office at 8 o'clock. You're in the office at 8 o'clock. You hire a coach and he says, I'm going to meet you at the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're in the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. Or you work with me online and you tell me you're going to do your workout. I'm on the app looking. Did you do your workout?
Right.
Oddly, come on, where are you?
Yep.
Do your workout. Okay. That's what a coach can do for you. It's easy because you just hire the coach, but it's also not quite as strong. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Accountability is great, but it only goes so far.
Right.
The other one is a group or social level. So this is where you have peers and groups. And everybody likes to think peer pressure is bad, but if you get the right peers, it can be awesome.
That's
So
right.
this is where you join a group. Like it could be a Facebook group, or it could be
Oh,
a class,
that's right.
or a spin class, or
That's
something
right.
like that.
That's right.
Or where you're going and you're seeing a run club. You're seeing the people that do it, and they're all there all the time. You know, okay, John and Sally and Sue and Mike are all going to be there. I got to be there.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Because they're going to call and be worried about me if I'm not there.
Alan,
Okay.
where were you? Right.
Where were you, man? It was a great run. You should have been there. And nobody was chasing us. Uh, but that's accountability at a group social level. So, when you first get started, those are the easy ends. Those are easy ways to build accountability around yourself and get yourself motivated. Okay. Now we're going to dive into the self-efficacy piece. And it also has a leader and a social level. Okay, so on the leader level, this is where you start really paying attention to yourself
Right.
and the excuses and the things you tell yourself. So I had this problem. I would get my gym bag ready in the morning and I'd want to work out during my lunch hour.
Yep.
And so I'd have the gym bag in my office and then I'd go to get ready to get dressed. And I don't know why, but I'd be missing one shoe or the t shirt or the shorts. And I'm like, crap, I can't work out.
Right. Oh well.
Right?
Right.
Oh
Oh
well.
well.
Oh well. Yeah.
Right.
So what I realized was I needed a strategy and a tactic. And the strategy was I need this bag packed properly the night before
Yes.
and put in a place where I couldn't forget it. And so I made myself a laminated list of everything that needed to be in that bag. While I was brushing my teeth, I had that list. I'm putting each thing in the bag in order, put
Yep.
the list in the bag, take the bag to the door by the carport, and right there, I would have to step over this thing to get out of here. Okay. Probably a fire hazard, but I don't know. Anyway, I always had the
It
bag
served
with
a
me.
purpose.
Yes, it's sort of perfect. And so now, and I brush my teeth for longer. But, but so that strategy and the tactics meant my gym bag was ready for me, and I'd eliminated an excuse. So I got more consistent with my workouts.
Yes. Yes.
That's self management.
Yes.
Going to bed 30 minutes earlier so it's not so hard to get up 30 minutes earlier in the morning is a tactic that can help you stay the course and stay consistent. So
Mhm.
self-management is this level of self-efficacy at a leader level. This is where you're the CEO of your own body, your
Yes.
own
Yes.
life. And what companies do is they set processes and standards for what they're going to do. This is exactly what you're doing. You're being the CEO of yourself saying, okay, here's the process. Now, I didn't really need the laminated card. I knew everything that needed to go in there, but that was just a tool to help me make sure that everything went in there. I didn't
Right.
forget anything. Okay. And then the lower level, that social level of this thing is where the magic happens. Okay. So you know that self-efficacy is harder because putting those stuff in there and doing them every night, every morning, every day,
Hmm.
there's a little bit to it, and it takes a little while, but it's stronger.
Yes.
This bottom part though is magic. So here's the deal. You imagine you go out and you say, okay, I'm going to start walking, and I think I can walk for half an hour a day, 3 or 4 days a week. Okay. You set your goals, you start going. And so that's your goal. And you go. And then you decide to add a jog to some of this. And then you sign up for a 5K. And then you're buying the shirts, shoes, and you're signing up for another 5K. And eventually you consider yourself a runner. What do runners do? They
Right.
run. So now your habits and your values are aligned with what
Yes.
you need,
Yes.
and you identify as someone who does that thing.
Hmm.
So this could be the way you eat. Okay, I eat whole foods. I don't eat crap. I'm a CrossFitter. I'm a runner. All these different things that you would be doing for your health and fitness. I'm not the guy who goes out and has 5 beers with my buddies every evening.
Right.
Okay, so now you identify as just something else. And when you identify as somebody who does healthy things, you just do healthy things.
Just
So when the
naturally, yeah.
alarm goes off in the morning,
Hmm.
you're putting on your shoes, you're putting on your shorts, you're out the door. You're doing your thing because it's just what you do. And in fact, if you've ever met someone who does these things and identifies as something and they get an injury and they can't do that thing, it drives them nuts. Okay, they're like, I want to run, I want to run, and then they're trying to get their rehab done quickly so they can get back to doing the thing that they identify with. So you kind of see how motivation can work. All of these are valuable, and I think the most successful people are the ones that stay in all four at some level. So a
Mm.
runner might sit there and say, "Yeah, I identify as a runner, and I've got these strategies and tactics to make it easier,
Yep.
but I want to work on my speed."
Yes.
And I want it to be fun. So I'm going
Mhm.
to still have a coach that I'll do some speed work with, or I'm going to train for a different distance. I've done the
Right.
half marathon. I
Right.
want to train
Right.
for a marathon. I'll hire a coach that'll help me with my marathon
Yep.
prep. And you still join the run group because they're doing runs. Then it's
That's
just
right.
getting your miles in. If there's
Mhm.
anyone in the run group that's also training for a marathon, perfect. You do
Right.
your long runs together on Sunday together. So you kind of see how you should be staying in all four of these quadrants, and a good coach will be pushing you towards self-efficacy.
You know what's really interesting is you keep that vivid imagery of the four quadrants. The deeper you get into it, the deeper you are it. Like
Yes.
it's like the becoming, right? So the deeper you go, so it's it's kind of like you go down this path, and you take another step. You're like, okay, you're further and further away from the starting point, right?
Right.
The starting point, you were something entirely, somewhere entirely different. But as long as you keep that step forward, you are that thing that you're walking towards. Whether and I do like the idea of actually saying I identify as a runner, because whether you identify one or not, you are doing those things. You're becoming it.
Yeah,
And the more you tell your mind, because that's a big part of this, right? This
it
mindset
is.
thing. The
Mhm.
more we tell our mind this is who we are and this is what we're doing, we will become that thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's a business podcast I listened to at one time. He called it "Be Do Have," and so to be what you want to be, you got to do the thing they do, and then you'll have what they have. And so it's just a mindset, but it's doing the thing. And so you have to, if you need accountability of a coach or a
Yep.
group, get it.
Yep.
Do something. And then accountability is there, motivation's there. Then as you find yourself making excuses, falling down here and there, don't just sit there and say, oh, well, think, okay, what could I have done to prevent this from happening? And what am I going to do next time? Pack
Yeah.
your gym bag the night before, put it by the door, those things. Um, and so then you start becoming that person. So flash forward, I'm training myself for 8 months. I lost 66 pounds of fat. I gained 11 pounds of muscle. And I went out there in that Tough Mudder with my daughter. And again, she's a level one CrossFit coach. So it was my goal to not slow her down a
Gotcha.
step.
Yep.
I wanted her to run her race, and I was going to be there as a
So,
participant, not a
second,
spectator.
you got
Okay.
it.
So we're coming up on the end of this race, and right before the last obstacle is you jump over this little fire. Okay. So nothing, it looks great on pictures, but that's not the big one. The big one is these electrodes that are hanging down, little wires. Okay. And so we come running up on, and there's
And let's
like
be clear. I'll be clear. You're covered in mud, right? Like this
mud
is
and it's wet, and they've set it up like with rows and stuff, so it's bumpy. You got to watch your step.
so
And
the
so
idea of
anyway,
like electrodes and water and
yeah,
mud.
fun stuff, right? I told you they put those other 25 things in there just to kind of mess with you.
Right.
Well, so I'm running with my daughter, and we come
Yeah.
up, there's about 30 guys, and they're all standing there looking at this thing like terrified, like trepidation. It was, what are we, how are we, how, what are we gonna, they've watched their buddies or other guys walk in there and just face plant.
Right.
Okay, so my daughter, she's like, what do you want to do? I said, you go around that way, I'm going to go around this way. And she said, oh, we're not going to wait. I said, no, there's no waiting, go. And she
So,
goes around, we come back to the other side, I grab her hand, and we run through this thing. Okay. Now, for those that don't know, well, I did major in physics when I was younger, and so what I'm basically doing by holding my daughter's hand is displacing the electricity. So when she gets struck, it's hitting two people versus one, and when I get hit, it's two people versus one, and that's how we were able to just run through. Like, we still got hit, and it hurt like hell, but we ran right through it. And so I was able to run through. We ran through the finish line holding hands. Now, I told you about my why. Now, here's things. When my daughter was first born, she was on the table. They were checking her out. She wrapped her hand around my pinky. A moment I will never forget. Okay. A little over a year and a half ago, I walked my daughter across the aisle, handed, the whole deal. I am 100% sure if I didn't do what I did when I was 45 years old, I would not have been walking her across down the aisle at 56. And then crossing that finish line with her at Tough Mudder, both of us having run a really good race, enjoying it. Again, not
yes.
dying doing it, but enjoying it, doing it. And the contrast of how I was when I was trying to play volleyball
Right.
when I was 39, and here I am at 45
Yeah.
or 47 running through this thing. So when I talk about the commitment, that does have to come first,
Yes.
because that drives everything. Your emotion drives all of the energy, and the vision is you doing the thing you need to do. Now, do I train for Tough Mudders now? No. What I do is train for other things. If my wife were to fall and hurt herself and need to go to the hospital, something was going on, I need to be able to pick her up and get her in the car.
Mm.
Okay. We
Yeah.
run a bed and breakfast. If I'm there and our worker's not there, I carry luggage upstairs.
Mm.
Okay. I carry bottles, 5-gallon bottles of water around. That's my role in addition to accounting and computer stuff. But
I
that's
love it.
that, again, I want to be able to do those things. And when I get older, I want to be able to take care of myself. I want to be independent, and I don't want some of the things I've seen from the aging curve
Yep.
in family members.
Yep. Yep. Again, that power of that why is just it is powerful.
Yeah.
And it can move mountains if if you let it. And clearly, you've embraced. But there's a part. There's the why. We talked about the accountability. Certainly how you identify. There's some other pieces as well that are equally as important. But
Yeah.
that why is just huge, man. It's
It
huge.
is. It drives all the way through, and it'll change. It can change over time.
Sure.
So
Sure.
my I was when I did all this first, I wasn't married. I married Tammy about 10 years ago now. And when we first started dating, her son had a stepdaughter. So our granddaughter. And when she first saw me, she's terrified, like almost like couldn't breathe around me,
Right.
terrified. So never said a word to me, terrified. And I'm like, I can't have this be the relationship that I have with this little girl.
Hmm.
So what I did is I got SpongeBob on my computer on YouTube, and I just walked over on the floor, as a tile floor, and I just sat down on the floor and started watching SpongeBob. And she comes over and sits down beside me. So we watched that whole episode of SpongeBob, and then I turn over to her and I say, "Would you like to watch another one?" And she said, "Yes, please." First word she ever said to me.
Oh, wow.
We watched another episode of SpongeBob. Now, at that point in time, I was over 50 years old. I was able to walk over, sit down on the floor, and sit there for almost an hour watching a cartoon with my granddaughter. Now, that's a level of fitness. Could you walk over, sit on the floor, and just sit there with your grandchildren? Or are you going to be the one sitting in the rocking chair watching them? Are you going to be a participant in their lives, or are you going to be a spectator? So if I take my grandkids to the zoo, I'm not going to be sitting on the bench at the entrance waiting for them to finish, ask them how it went.
You're part of the journey.
I'm going to be out there running, and they're like, the monkeys, let's go. And we're running to the monkeys. I'm with them. Now, I don't know what crazy things. I mean, we didn't have Tough Mudders when I was growing up.
No,
I did marathons and other stuff. They've got Tough Mudders and things now. I don't know what they're going to be doing when my grandkids are, in their young 20s, but I might just be the crazy guy out there trying to do it with them, because again, I'm never going to be satisfied with not having the relationship that requires me to be with
yeah,
them
yeah.
and not just spectating or asking from a distance.
Alan, I can see so many fathers, parents sort of connecting with what you're talking about, and that's such an important. I'm father as father myself, and I think yeah, as you talk about, yeah, absolutely, I want this is what I want to do, and absolutely, and I want to do. I should, what do I need to do? Because again, going back to the accountability thing, there's some responsibility that I need to take to make
Yeah.
sure I'm at that place that I'm desiring I want to be at, and so um I guess fantastic. Man. I really appreciate your story. I'm curious how you landed in the Caribbean. Is that part of the journey, or is that just a choice that you made
Well,
to
it was, if you have friends and you lose 66 pounds of fat,
yeah,
people notice. People are going to talk and they're going to ask questions, and that's what happened. Some of my friends were asking, like, what did you do? Because I traveled a lot, so I didn't see them that regular. But
sure,
so I did a little thing with one of my friends in March, and then here I am in November, having lost so much weight and changed my whole body. And so I told him, I said, well, it's not complicated, but you just got to be careful with how you do it because we're older, we can break. Now, one of the things that really bothered me when I first started this journey was I like to research, I like to read, and I like to learn. So I was listening to a lot of podcasts back then, and I probably read at least 2 books a week. Just to give you an idea, like I say, I like to read. And half of them are health and fitness, and half of them are personal development, usually. Occasionally, I'll throw in a fiction book in there. But so I was like, I wanted to find information to help me train myself because, everything was just so general.
right.
Like, you're the same as everybody else, just do the workouts that the 20-year-olds do.
Hmm.
And I knew that wasn't right. It wasn't working for me. It hadn't worked for me. And so I was like, I gotta figure this out. I did figure it out. I figured, with what I did, I said, so I'll coach you for free. And so I coached my friend. In 10 weeks, he lost 39 pounds. His wife lost 28. So I said, okay, I think I'm on to something here. So I started coaching people online. I'm like, this will be a sideline. I've got this job thing.
Sure.
I'm making good money. I don't need more money at this point. So I didn't charge a lot, but I basically started a podcast and started coaching. And I decided I had a 5-year plan. I'm like, okay, I'll do this online stuff on the side for 5 years, and then I'll retire from my corporate job and I'll do this full time as like my second
Sure.
career.
Sure.
Well, my employer decided that to lay off my whole department, 2 years into this, so 3 years early. So I didn't quite have my retirement like nailed down the way I thought I would. The best laid plans was it? What
Sure.
is it? Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in
I'm
the
sure.
mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody has a plan until they get laid off. In their 50s. Um, so we had a beautiful house, but the carrying costs were so high. So once I got laid off, I said, okay, I'm going to write a book called The Wellness Roadmap. So I wrote a book. It won awards. It did really well. But I was just looking at the run rate of where we were and how things were changing financially in Florida at the time. So it was really hard to get insurance for a house, particularly in Pensacola Beach. The rates were going up dramatically. Insurance rates were going up dramatically. And it's not like I could just walk in and say, look, do I look like a sick man? And then lower my insurance rate. That they wouldn't. I'm 50 something year old man. I'm supposed to be sick. I'm supposed to be on medications. I didn't fit the model for their health insurance. I didn't have to go to the doctor regularly. I mean, I'd go for checkups and stuff, but I didn't need the insurance the way that not for what I was paying. So it's just all these costs. And I was like, we can do better. So my wife and we just sat down and decided, let's start looking around and see where we might be able to go
Right.
to make things a little bit better for us financially. The other side of it was when you start looking at the core pillars of health, There's nutrition, there's sleep,
Yep.
there's
Yep.
stress, there's movement. And so I was thinking, okay, what if I really optimize? So I'd obviously optimize my movement. I'm a really good sleeper, and so I optimize my sleep. In fact, I don't even set an alarm. I wake up when I wake up. That's kind of how I go. I
Mm.
get to bed usually 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock latest, and I just wake up when I'm awake. So all those are really good. But even having lost the corporate job, my stress level was still higher than it needed to be, and the nutrition of what we were able to buy locally from the grocery stores and whatnot was lacking. It just is factory farming and all the things they do to make vegetables
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
very pretty, but not as nutritious as they need to be. So we said, well, let's just look around. And I had come through this part of Panama years and years ago with my daughter. Again, I had always seen myself as a participant. So we were taking long vacations together when she was younger, and we had come through Panama on one of those vacations.
Hmm.
So I told my wife, I said, hey, look at Bocas del Toro. And she said, well, we said Caribbean. I said, it is. It's a Caribbean island that doesn't get hurricanes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
so So we came down and checked it out, and we've lived here for over 5 years now.
Amazing.
We're about 2 years in. Everything was coming out of COVID when we bought the bed and breakfast, fixed it up,
Yeah.
and we've been running that now for a little more than 2 years. And
Amazing.
it's a cool thing to do.
Amazing. I think the story is fantastic, and the manner in which you sort of getting taking control, taking ownership, being accountable, like we talked about earlier. There's all tremendous things that we can do for ourselves. I'd be remiss if I didn't, as a podcaster yourself, I'd be remiss if we didn't to give you a plug for your podcast.
Well, thank you. It's 40 plus fitness. At the time I said I went out there, yeah, there was nothing. There was nobody talking about this topic, and I'm like, there's so many of us that need to understand what our body's capable of and do it
Right.
right. And so what I do is I basically have a weekly episodes now. I used to go a little bit more often. So I think episode 640 or 639 is dropping this week. um, so yeah, a lot of them. And what I do is I actually read the book. So if the person coming on is an author, I will
Yep.
read their book, and we'll
Right.
deep dive into that topic that their book's on.
Yep.
And what it's meant is I've over the course of the 8 plus years that I've been doing the podcast, I've read over 400 health and fitness books.
Amazing. Amazing.
And, that's an education you don't get anywhere else but the doing. And so I enjoy it because I go in, I deep dive into their book, I learn new things, and then I just say, okay, let's pick out a few really cool things that are going to help somebody, for particularly someone over 40. And so if you have a question about health and fitness over 40, I'm almost 100% sure I have an episode
Right.
out there
Right. Right.
that'll help you.
That's amazing. No, I love it. I love it. No, I appreciate the commitment and the drive and the motivation. Are all A pluses as far as I'm concerned. For listeners that wanted to connect with you directly or learn more about you, where can we send them, Alan?
Okay, well, what I'm doing, I'm setting up a separate little page just for this podcast. So if you'll go to 40plusfitness.com/audacious.
Okay.
Okay, so 40plusfitness.com/audacious. That's going to take you to a page. All the links are on that page. So you'll go there, you'll see the logo, we'll see your logo. And when you get there, yeah, that's links to everything. So you got
Amazing.
links to the podcast, the
Yep.
book. If you want to train or learn more about me, all that's
Yep.
there,
Amazing.
along with social media stuff. So you can find me there. It's all in one place.
Amazing. Amazing. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate if you're doing that for our listeners. And I appreciate you taking the time to be here and share your story, your mission, and how you're making this world a better place. Congrats on all that you've done thus far, and keep up the great work.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's my honor to be here, and I appreciate you helping me spread this word.
Not a problem. Be well, my friend.
You too.
In today's conversation with Allan, we learned the importance of commitment, the emotional why, and visioning in achieving our health and fitness goals. Allan's powerful journey of self-transformation serves as a compelling reminder that with dedication and the right mindset, we can overcome any challenge and live our best lives. Now, to connect with him directly, if you're looking for personalized fitness coaching or more information on wellness programs, please check out the show notes for Allan's contact details. I'd encourage you to take advantage of his exclusive offers and, again, that personalized coaching that he has available for podcast listeners. His website is also available in a place to contact for him. And again, all those details are in the show notes below. Thank you for tuning into another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed the insights shared today, I'd encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, and share, because of course, that's how we grow this podcast to inspire more listeners to live their most audacious life. Stay tuned for more empowering conversation and wellness tips in upcoming episodes. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.